Now we're to Double A. Again, Double A is the biggest stock class. This is definitely a semi-final. And we've got a couple good friends in Lane 1 and Lane 2. Rob Bumphrey and Scott Zarko are always talking to each other. Scott's from Regina, and he works in the building trade. I think he puts heating ducts in buildings and things. Rob works for the gas control office at Transgas. He makes sure that your pilot light don't go out in the cold weather. David Mills down there in Lane 4. Looks like a pretty good old race, so I think Rob is happy with his new sled. There, Greg won his heat. That deadly rep. Right behind that is Tim Rudy, Lane 2. Mark Suchuk's Centurion with an old-fashioned hood on it. He's done a nice job of the bodywork on that hood. He's in Lane 1. Very different looking Yamaha SRX in Lane 3. It's got a different color scheme. It's kind of nice. And then Jerry Zarko down there in Lane 4 on that deadly Arctic Cat. I can see that the return lane is getting a little soft in places. If you think about it, there's 4 lanes going down and only 1 coming back, so it does get a lot of traffic. We had trouble packing the snow. Arlie Kimmy, our groomer operator, said that it was really tough. It wasn't cold enough. There wasn't enough snow, and the snow remained sugary, and it just didn't seem to pack. Now, we had cold weather last night. It was a really good thing. Still running A stock. That's a Cooper in Lane 2. One of the Cooper boys. Now we're on to Relic Open Mod. The heats in Double A are done. Here's Trevor LeQuay again and his very rare 1973 Yamaha SSR, and Brennan Boxall in the far lane with a equally rare Thunderjet, 73 Thunderjet. They're both 440s. Both motors are made by Yamaha. Trevor told me the other day he traveled all the way to Ontario for that toboggan because it is just that rare. And he's been working on it. Good to see he's got a seat on it. Not a bad race. Relic Open Mod. Sled 21, I think, is Kerry Schmier from Melfort, or one of his drivers. You can never tell who's on the toboggan. Kerry Farms down there in a big way. Looks like we have 2 in this heat. Little bog, little hesitation, and away it goes. Looks like Brendan won his class there, won his heat, and then Trevor. So that's it for Relic Open Mod. Now we move to stock C, big class. So the Yamahas we see, these GPXs, are made for a couple years, 74 and 75. A real favorite with the vintage racers. They're lightweight. You can still work with the motors. Clutches, the drive clutches, the primaries, a lot of them have been upgraded to usually a Comet clutch because it's getting hard to find the parts for the old Yamaha OEM clutches. The Comet's fully tunable and good for the racers. They can make it do what they need it to do. But so continuing on with stock C, there's I think it's a fellow by the name of Madraga down there in lane 4. He's on a Polaris TXC, lots of Polarises as usual. Here comes Kevin LeQuay, I think it's Kevin in lane 2. One of the Watt boys, James or Jesse in lane 1. Sled 976, that's a 440 Mercury trail twister. It's 440 fan-cooled sled. So he's jumped up one class. I think Kevin has jumped up a class, and then the other two Polarises are, well, they could all be stock D sleds running in C, so they'll get in the final, somebody. As I said, the first two advance, the last two are back on the trailer now. Now Suzuki, another motorcycle manufacturer, also made snow machines back in the 70s. And for a few years, up until 76, I'm not sure. But the last ones they made were the Furies, and I think that's what's in lane 4. Looks like an Arctic Cat, but it's painted up. And the Suzuki was a force to be reckoned with. It really dominated. Looks like the 440 Trail Twister advances. Kevin LeQuay's still alive. Sled 15 is back on the trailer, and so is Sled 60. My buddy Rob once told me Polaris TXs are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. And here's 3 more. I'm cheering for the Yamaha. He's outnumbered here. He should be able to win. And here we go. They've decided the sled is out of the way enough to race. Things are running very smoothly today. As I get to know the names and numbers, I know that's Andrew Rozeski over there in lane 3 with his TXL. He's the midnight rider. They drove all night to get here. Could be DJ Redaway in lane 1, I'm not sure. It looks like his coat, looks like his helmet. Doug Wolf in lane 2. Doug's one of our senior racers. Always wins some prizes. We're missing a few guys around here. Mike Stratichuk is banged up from an oval race crash a couple weeks ago with McDowell. I think that was Kevin McTavish won that heat. Kevin's from Raymore. Not sure what he does for a living. Heat 148. 2 cats and a Merc. Let's see who wins that. mentioning snowmobile trailers across the track. One of the bigger ones is Rudy's Racing. Big Jim and I and Terry Sluicer went down to the States and dragged that 33-foot monster back one time. Pretty good trip. The guys teased me because I was hugging all the girls down there. We've got to get to know your customers somehow. I know that Grace isn't listening because she's working the board right now, so you can get away with anything. Looks like the Merc beat the two cats. Daddy Sherrard's in second, so he advances. Stock C, still running heats. There's Rob Humphrey in lane 2. Not sure who 257 is, so check that out. Scott Monteith. Scott's from the Saskatoon area. He came up this September and took a trailer load of parts and sleds out of my yard. And he was my best friend that day. We dropped 50 sleds out of the boneyard that month. Just wasn't getting anything done with them. Looks like Rob's off to a good start. So John Rudy won his heat. Still running stock C. It's amazing. I'll have to go down to the board and count up how many we actually had in that class. Oh, Rob won his heat. Kelly Hunter is second. Justin Hrychuk, her brother-in-law, is third. Scott Monteith is fourth. So Scott, that particular class is not for Scott anymore. I was talking about Kawasaki. Here's, I think it's Kevin McTavish, I'm not sure. Number 8 on his Kawasaki. Kawasaki bought all the Snowjet stuff in about 1977. And for the first year, Kawasaki snowmobiles had Yamaha engines in them, their direct competitor. The year after that, they converted over. And I think the year after that, 78, they started building their own chassis, except for the leftover Snowjet stuff. And did a good job. They made some fearsome fast snowmobiles. Charlie Matchett's got most of them out in his shed east of town here. This Kawasaki is not working very good. Might need a tow. Sled 8 does the ride of shame. Let's see where he's going. We're into 700 liquid mod. This is the big guys again. And whether it's a 440 or a 700, it's awful damn fast. Who can tell? So we'll have a few heats of the mods. And there are lots of 440s that are jumping up into the 700 class. All these Yamahas, you see. And we're back racing again. More 700s. Now we're pretty fussy. You see some of the big clutch guards on these sleds, the big chrome pieces on the side, or aluminum. Because the sleds are modified, they're probably running at thousands of RPM over what they were designed for. And we insist that they have a really good clutch guard on there in case the belt blows up or the clutch weights come spinning out. And it took a few years to get to that point, convince everybody. No, I take that back. That wasn't Curtis Vauxhall. That was Brennan driving Kerry Schmear's
We got 146 on the lineup, right?
3-cylinder PDC sled. Wasn't that heat, so yeah, I didn't. It's quite a leap to have a 340 air running up in 700 liquid, so I'm sorry about that. It's just so exciting, you know. Now we're down to 300 liquid. Eunice, Rudy's down here in lane 1 again. And Eunice doesn't waste any time about it. Down there pretty quick. So that could be the only heat in 300 liquid mod, or the only final. Or no, this is a single pass, right? We had 4 sleds in one heat in the final to determine the final, and 1 in this heat, which is the B side. So Benoit will probably finish first in his single pass. You got to make the pass, or else you don't get the nice plastic trophy. Now we're down to 800.
Was that enough for a heat in a single foot by itself? That's correct. Sorry, what was that, Brad?
Bob was just wondering if that single pass was just an actual heat, and it was.
Okay, thanks.
So here's Rick Antonio. Lane 3 in the Northway. You'll be second by the looks of it. This is probably the B final here. That's Trevor's old GT 396 in lane 3. And the Redaway Motoski from Southie. Redaways have come up here for years to race. It's like a pretty good old race. You don't have to go 900 miles an hour and have a good race.
Okay, we got an update. Race number 184, lane number 1, sled 886 is scratched. All right, Kevin, send them on.
So we're up to heat 160. A stock again, so there'll be a few heats here. There's David Mills in lane 1. His father, Bob, his old ski roll, we saw him get towed in and it was giving him trouble and not running very well, so Bob scratched his sled from the standings. And he's the guy that's down helping the guys at the finish line. Bob and David like coming up here. They'll do some trail riding. They'll race. and they're very appreciative of what we do, and we love having them. So thanks to Bob for being down at the finish line. That's awesome. Helping Mark Verstraeten and Rob Burday down there. Rob's running the video camera. He's got his hands full. So some nice Polaris there. David second. He's okay. Looks like John Rudy's going to park Jim's old sled on the trailer. Mark Suchuk's coming down here in lane 1. Mark works for the Department of Highways. And Scott Zarco's in lane 2, and I think it's Dale Zuck or Dale Zuck's friend running his Centurion in lane 3. So 3 Polarises, 3 3-cylinder sleds, all in some stock form. Rob won his heat, past Jerry Zarko. Jerry's on his way down to Arizona tomorrow or the day after.
Heat 163 is on the line. Loading heat 163. Hey, we're ready down here.
But we tried to talk, Curtis Boxall and I tried to talk Jerry into letting us sleep on his couch down there. I'm sure he would. So this is the last A stock heat. The sun's coming out and it's actually feeling a bit colder out there. Oh, that guy's out of shape, Andrew. Track's getting chewed up pretty good. It is unfortunate that the track gets kind of funky, but we can't help that. And sometimes it's the luck of the draw. You could be the winning sled, but if you get a crappy lane, and it is the luck of the draw, it's all randomly assigned. That's the way cookie crumbles. I've won races and won classes in the past out of sheer luck. So this is 440 Air Mod by the looks of it. See Tim Rudy's down there on his. Sled 220, I think that's Ernie Moldovan's old sled from Regina. Again, it's a PDC, which means Professional Driver Circuit. They had a class in the 75. And they had special version of sleds so the big time racers could all show off and run against each other. 440 Air Mod. Here comes Brennan again. He's got the old Thunder. Nice little toboggan. Not very heavy. And Brother Curtis in lane 1. So cool to see 2 brothers. Hope they get along here in a few minutes. Comes a nice motor ski. I don't know who's driving 722. That'll be a rotary valve or a liquid rotary valve engine. Skidoo kind of led the technology in the 70s. Gord, Kawa, Medicine Hat. This is Al Burton. Good to see him. Nice orange helmet. He'll need to do a little more tuning. Looks like he's spun out. He may not even have studs on that thing. And this will be our last 440 air mod heat. Here comes Ray Ferdine. Ray has worked on the ice roads in the north and driven heavy equipment all his life. Rides a motorcycle. And he's about the same height as I am, which is 5 foot nothing. So he's like my best friend, you know. But a good competitor. And we all think he doesn't let on that he knows sleds, but he's a winner a lot of the time, so keep an eye on him. I'm not crazy about his goggles, though. Could be a single pass. Yeah, Ray's got to make a single pass for his trophy. He might save his horsepower a little bit instead of bagging it out bad and breaking something. Now we're moving on, steadily moving on. Here's Relic one lung stock. So these are one cylinder. We call the one cylinder sleds one lungers. Relic is 73 and earlier, and stock means they got to have the proper exhaust pipe and the proper engine. They are allowed to change their carburetor because the old Tillotson carbs were a little bit hard to keep running, and they can probably change the clutch as well. That's more of a safety item. Got one late straggler coming up here. And that's an old Olympic. That's in the mid 60s. That could be the oldest sled here. Best looking one though. It would be a 292 Arctic Cat. He's running good. Relic one lung stalkers. So you are seeing a lot of finals here. I don't have the actual draw in front of me, so I can't tell you. This is Rusty Watt coming up in with his Olympic. I think this is a 320, known as a 320. And back in that day, those days, Skidoo had Rotax in Austria build their sleds, and then Bombardier Corporation bought Rotax, I think. Rusty's burning up the track, another single pass. They got to earn that plastic trophy, as I said before. So we're on to